by Dr. Nicole Eastman, who I am. I want to welcome you all to the show. This is our inaugural show, and we're starting out with a bang. This segment is going to be about the hot girl summer and characteristics of a hot girl. The point of the L show is to make sure that women maturing past the age of 40 have a voice, are heard, our concerns and things that matter to us that have naturally evolved during our maturation. We just don't find that they're spoken to or truly marketed to. So we want the L show to serve as an educational, inspiring, entertaining, and celebratory beacon that reflects what's on our mind. And as a pharmacist within this group of women, I have the unique advantage in that I've been able to have some of these gloves off conversations, very open conversations about these sometimes taboo topics that are okay. So we want to make sure that all of our listeners know that it is okay to talk about these topics. I would like to just point out that the information that's presented on this show is not intended to replace the advice of your healthcare provider. Today's topics also may not be suitable for all listeners. And I would like to start off by just saying that, as we mature, we go through lots of hormonal transitions, right? Internal, external, and it's okay. We're struggling with how do we feel? We can't sleep, hot flashes, low libido, vaginal dryness, all of these things that we don't typically talk about in public. That's what happens. And what can we do to get us through this journey of rediscovery and holistic wellness? So in today's show, we're going to discuss some of those hallmarks of the menopause transition that we experience. And a major focus is on sexual issues, which encompasses the mood swings, the hot flashes, the sleep disturbances, and how our mental mindset of self-acceptance can be a game changer in how we move through this transition. My guest today is Dorothy Diana. Hi, Dorothy.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for being here. Dorothy has her Master's of Science in Nursing. She is also a sexual health and wellness educator. She is a certified S-Factor teacher. She has over 20 years as a yogi, and she is 20 plus years in intuitive exotic dance.
Yes.
And so I really want to delve into that. This all works together. It's just I'm so excited to have you.
It does. It goes together beautifully, and I can't wait to share it with your listeners.
Yes, yes, yes. So let's go ahead and just begin. As I talked about, we have all of these things that occur during this time where we are transitioning through these, which can sometimes be unbearable. What feels like it's unbearable, but we really want to come back to how do we get through it? How do we get through it from a mental perspective? How do we work on ourselves from an acceptance perspective? It's okay and for us to be comfortable to talk about it in the public.
Mm-hmm,
What
mm-hmm.
are your thoughts?
I agree with you. It seems like it's a very taboo topic. We are very aware, I think, by this point of what Hollywood does with women over the age of looking over the age of 30. Now, we don't know how old anyone is with all the cosmetic surgery, but, an appearance over the age of 35 to 40, they kind of get put on the back burner. They get either very uninteresting roles or not roles at all. That's shifting a little bit. And I have actress friends, actually, because I was living in LA for a long time. And there has been a shift on that. But that's just really not a huge one, not enough of one. But that's just a reflection of generally the view in society and our culture of the older woman, whatever that means now, that's another topic, and sexuality and her, does she deserve it? Does she have a right to it? Is she attractive? Is she sexy? And this is shifting, and I find it very exciting. We have learned through lots of research and anecdotally that women over the age of 40 and 50 do have an increase sometimes, frequently, in sexual appetite due to hormone shifts. And also, I believe, due to increased self-confidence. They've gone through so much, they've decided they know who they are frequently. There's a shift frequently in the 40s where a woman goes through sort of the opposite of a midlife crisis, where she really begins to grow and develop and evolve and mature in her and claim her power, and really her career takes off and just becomes very sort of solid and juicy and established. And with that comes this confidence that translates to the bedroom, better communication, not caring so much how it looks, but how it feels, demanding more from her lovers in terms of, I want the best of intimacy. I'm not going to settle anymore. So I think there's a lot of positive changes, and I think our popular culture absolutely doesn't get that for the most part. And so I'm glad we're here talking about it.
Yes. So let's go back to just, as a pharmacist, whenever someone comes to me with certain symptoms, I'm thinking, okay, so what can we do from a treatment perspective? We don't automatically start with, say, something pharmacotherapeutic, but we often talk about behaviors. We talk about, things that could be affecting our experience, affecting our symptoms,
like our libido and vaginal dryness
and vaginal, absolutely. So from that perspective, I would love to just kind of get into the mindset and how the mind and our emotions can often translate to some of the things that we experience, right?
That's interesting. Well, so research has shown when it comes to sexual dysfunction, so some of the terms I use are going to be more like medical scientific. It's not my favorite terminology, but I think it translates and everyone knows what I'm talking about. So when it comes to the field of sexual dysfunction and older adults, older women especially, across the board, the research shows one of the biggest factors affecting a woman's self-reported sexual pleasure and satisfaction with her sex life and I keep saying older, and again, whatever that means to you, let's say 45 and up, 55 and up, the age of perimenopause to menopause. The biggest factors are her personal view of herself, like her view of sexuality itself, what it means in her life, and her positive self-image. And so that in itself, there's so many factors involving sexual dysfunction and performance and function that are physical and hormonal, but that being the biggest, being her perception going in of herself and her sexuality and her partner and their relationship. That in itself says a lot, that this is where we start. This is, this is starting at a place of how do you feel, an interview questionnaire if you're a coach or a therapist or a pharmacist, really kind of getting a lot of like what you're saying, touching on what are her attitudes right now about her own body and about sexuality and what she deserves, and is she experiencing pleasure, and does she, I don't like the word demand, but insist on pleasure.
Absolutely.
An emotional connection, which is one of the number one factors, also emotional connection in how desirous a woman feels. There's three things. Emotional connection is one of them. So, that's a feminine perspective, and I think focusing on that is really important.
All right, we'll be back with more. Oh my goodness, how was that?
Join Todd Starnes weekdays noon to 3 on your station for news.
All right. We are back to the L show with my guest host, Miss Dorothy Diana. And we are talking about those topics that are not mainstream, that are not talked about when they should be. We are talking about just acknowledging who we are, our experiences, going through the changes as we mature, and we are having this wonderful discussion around our sexuality, which often is something that comes as the questionable pieces of that when we're going through menopause, and how we can get back to this area, this place of self acceptance and really rediscovery of who we are. This can be a very beautiful journey. I'll say this too, Dorothy. You said something when we talked about how can we make this process beautiful? How can we look at, the symptoms that we experience, look at that as an opportunity to really self-explore. I tell you, myself, full transparency of the show, nothing is off limits, right? So full transparency, hot flashes for me were, horrible. Getting up in the middle of the night with the night sweats and the vaginal dryness, not, wanting to sit down because you're so uncomfortable. How the mental piece of that, it takes a toll on you really being who you want to be and you becoming this new person in this different part of your life. I go back to the fact, just our conversation around how do we make this beautiful? Like, what can we do to really dive into it and figure out where do we start? Where do we start?
That's a great question. And I feel like it does come back to mindset. And, I think we had talked about the experience of childbirth. So I did 2 natural childbirths after one hospitalized birth after I researched. And I had almost gone into C-section in the first. And just to say that, it was extremely painful, I'm going to be honest. I told my girlfriend, never let me do that again. It was horrible. And then I did it again. So, but I will say this, it changed me. It was so messy, ugly. I mean, I'm just going to say fluid, and so painful. Literally, I just wanted to escape my body. But I never was the same after that. And my pain tolerance now is amazing. And something shifted inside of me after having those experiences and holding a newborn and the painful nipples and the breastfeeding. It alchemizes you into something better. And when I think about these cycles of life, like menopause and childbirth, these feminine cycles, these feminine rhythms that we go through and that aren't celebrated in the mainstream culture. We have the medicalized model of childbirth on TV. We have the sterilized version of the older woman.
Yes, that's right.
And when we talk real with our sisters about what it is to really sink into these experiences and accept the discomfort, knowing that we're going through something that is a celebration of our femininity. We're going from a place of focusing on childbirth and momming to now focusing on us as an empowered woman.
Yes.
We can now have sex without protection. That's kind of exciting. That can be a positive.
Right.
There are many treatments, as we talked about, natural treatments for vaginal dryness and nutrition we can use. Turn it into something amazing. Take it as a chance to now get super strict about your nutrition, your exercise, your detox,
correct.
your sleep.
Yes.
Make you even way better than before.
Yes. Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Use this as a jumping off point, right? As a starting point to who you're going to be in this new place in your life. I think it's beautiful. I tell you, if I would have been able to have those thoughts in the back of my mind at the times where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is nuts. How am I going to get through this? I'll tell you just a quick story. My gynecologist, I went to see her when I was, having major issues with vaginal dryness. And of course, I'm only talking really to her about this, but, and I remember it making total sense to me to say this, and this is how bad mentally it can get. I remember this making sense to me. I'm like, hey, so is there such thing as a vaginal transplant? I remember saying this, and she laughed, but I was so serious.
That's how miserable you were.
That's how miserable it can be, right? And so just really having in my mind, if I would have had that mental, just the idea that, listen, this is going to, through this pain, through all of this is going to make me stronger. It's going to allow me to get to know myself. It's going to allow me to focus on myself and really focus on myself from a place of inner love, inner beauty, acceptance, all those things that we all want.
Well, and it triggered an empathy in you. So all these painful experiences we go through, if you alchemize them into a soft place where we can have empathy with others, and you turn it into service to others' energy, because now you're this beautiful woman with a pharmacy and a radio show reaching out to women, helping them. We have just barely touched the surface today on all the information you have to offer women on how to get through this, not just survive it, but thrive through menopause.
Yes.
So this is the gift, right, of going through it. And you went through it hardcore.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So let's go back to the low libido piece, okay? So, when we think of low libido, of course, automatically, we're thinking, okay, what can we do externally to improve our libido? Okay. But we know that there are many other things that we can do from a mental standpoint, like us taking control of this. What are the things that we can do to help with low libido that don't have the need for, say, a medication, right? So what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts around this?
I love this.
Yes.
So there are great natural tinctures for low libido, but we won't get into that right now. But I love the natural health. I think it's kinder on the female body and very effective. But if you look at the research on hypoactive sexual desire disorder, for example, it really does parallel the teachings of health coaches and sexual coaches and even spiritual guides, so I love it when everyone agrees that one of the top components of desire in women is emotional connection. And also another one is the five senses being turned on. Women report being turned on by emotional connection. Obviously, a memory is one of the biggest turn-ons, and the five senses. So when you think about that, what an exciting time to slow down and come back to our senses and our sensuality as women. What a great time to, instead of rush, 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 work, 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 busy, 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 demand slowness, demand pleasure, and say, I'm going to sit here with a cup of tea. There's many supportive teas for menopause, as you well know, and I'm going to put my feet in this massager that I got for $100 from Kohl's, and that are amazing, and I'm gonna, put a beautiful incense or candle on, and I'm gonna sit here and love my life and get super emotionally happy right now. And if I have a partner that's a great communicator, he's going to know that this is something I need. And when I'm feeling a little low or my bucket's empty, I might even reach out to him and say, hey, can we talk? Can we snuggle?
Right.
Just knowing that emotional connection is really important for libido. So it may not solve all the problems if you have a lot of physical issues or hormonal issues,
Right.
and we'll take that in another direction, but it's going to vastly improve when you tune into yourself and understand that your sensuality as a woman and your emotional connection are hugely important.
Let's talk about those conversations with our partners, right?
Yeah.
So what does that look like? How do we bring that up? Because, we know that, your partner has needs as well, right? And you want to be respectful of, your needs, right? What you're going through, and also their needs. But how do you really make that connection with that conversation? Like, how does that look?
So hopefully, and I think that we talked about this at some point when we were chatting earlier, like nutrition and like health, hopefully prior to menopause, you've started some good habits.
Yes, right.
None of us are perfect, but ideally prior to the shifts happening, which sometimes are not even noticeable for women at first, you've already kind of gotten a handle on higher fruits and vegetables and things like that. Similar to an intimate relationship, hopefully, and there is a higher divorce rate in the late 40s. I think there's a reason for that. Women are starting to claim what they feel they really want. But hopefully prior, you've already established great communication habits where your needs are being talked about openly without judgment,
Right.
in a kind way with each other. And I think that's the beginning. That's the foundation.
Yeah, just this kindness and being open,
Communication.
communication,
Huge.
right? Yes, right, right, right. The argument. You both want the same things,
Yeah.
and how can you do this in a loving way in which you respect the needs, the feminine and
The
the
feminine.
and the masculine, right? You
Yes, those are
respect those.
different needs.
Yeah,
Yes, it's
we
important.
exactly, and having those conversations are so important,
Yes,
right?
and for both to feel heard.
Yes, for both to feel heard, for both to feel heard. That's beautiful. I love this conversation, not because it's something that, we have to talk about, but because it's something that we want to talk about, that we
Mm.
need to talk about, that we need to normalize. This is not going to go away. This is not
No.
going to go away. And wouldn't it be beautiful? Wouldn't it be beautiful for the women who are coming behind us to already know, have a plan,
Have a
right?
plan.
Have a plan in place to
Yeah.
how am I going to face
Navigate
this?
this.
Yes, face this head on and accept it, and work through all of those things up front
Yeah.
before even having to be there.
How do I
You-
talk to my man so he can hear me? And
Mhm.
how does he talk to me so I can hear him? And we both feel amazing after the conversation. And then there's
Absolutely.
some good loving.
Yes, right. Awesome, awesome. So, so we are about to go to our other commercial break, and we will be right back with the L Show.
Local news and weather now on the new 1059, 100.7 WSIC. News Talk Now.
Listen to Those Weekend Golf Guys, Sunday afternoon at 4.
Hey everyone, this is Robert Carey from America's #1 travel radio show. Join Mary and me and Rudy each Saturday as we cover the ever-evolving world of travel, talk with newsmakers, share compelling experiences, and explore the world together during the fastest 2 hours in travel on RM World Travel.
Hello, and welcome back to the L Show with my guest, Dorothy Diana. Dorothy, thank you again for spending this time with us this afternoon and just being so open. And I just love your energy. It's amazing. So, Dorothy, I want to start this portion discussing the S Factor. You are a certified S Factor teacher. And the reason why I want to discuss this is because when we think about going through menopause and all of that, and we've already kind of talked about this multiple, like the mental piece of it, doing the work, what does the S Factor do to help us to get back to being in a place where we can deal with all of these changes that we're transitioning with?
This is like my favorite topic, so, but I'll try to put it in a nutshell. I could talk
fine.
for hours about this. So I sort of accidentally ended up an S Factor teacher, but on purpose accidentally. I had all these degrees in healthcare, and on the side, I was doing this practice because it filled me up so much as a woman and as a mom, and it was so special. And then they suddenly did a teacher training, and I said, oh, why not? And I'm so grateful because I sunk really heavily back into it in the past few years, and it's brought so much joy to so many women, including myself. And what S Factor is, essentially, it has a very long history, and it draws on many philosophies of healing, but it is a sensual, somatic movement practice, very feminine and very embodied. So we're out of our head, we're completely in our body, and we get women there gradually, and it's a very curated, lovely way. We get women there because most women are unable to come into the studio and do that right away. And we teach their body a new language of movement that our culture has forgotten. Feminine movement, moving through the curves of the body, moving slowly, moving circuitously, not linearly, no performance. Lights are low. It's candles, no mirrors. It's how it feels, not how it looks. And it's such a pleasure. And it essentially looks like exotic dance, if I'm going to be honest. And we have so much fun, and we support each other, and we dance, we put on music that we love, and it's very freeing. And the energy is taken back out into our lives, and it's very transformative.
And it's exercise.
Oh, it's really hard. A lot of
so
lot of core
talk
work.
talk about that. Like, that's the thing. Like, I'm thinking, I'm like, wow, it sounds like, oh my gosh, that'd be great. But of course, in your head, you're like, oh my gosh, this sounds like it would be so difficult. Take us through kind of like what that looks like.
So we start on the mats, and so it's very much like yoga, Pilates, and exotic dance all mixed together. And actually, a lot of yoga now is doing a lot of Kundalini yoga. It's very similar. It's very round. It's very fluid and moving on our breath. And as if you were to watch a class, at first it might look like yoga, and then you start to watch a little longer, like, wait a minute, that's a little sexy. And it keeps going and going, and we do a ton of arms and a ton of core. And as my women are with me for a while and they get super excited, juiced up, more strong, we do a lot of talking about the place of the feminine in our world and the messages we've been given. And we do a lot of alchemization and transformation of those shame beliefs into empowered beliefs. That's part of it also. And at some point they get so excited, so strong, and so into their bodies, we go to the pole. Yes, we do pole dancing.
Okay.
We take it to the pole.
All right, taking it to the pole.
Yeah,
Yes.
because if you can climb a pole and flip upside down, you no longer have to worry when you go back to your doctor that he's going to say, hey, I thought I told you to get an exercise program to help these menopausal symptoms. That is gone. That little problem is eliminated, and with so much fun, and it doesn't feel like exercise.
And it leads to self-acceptance, right? Like all of those, just the benefits when we talk about how are we going to get in that mindset of working through all of these things that we have to go through during this time. Like self-acceptance and being self-aware and just feeling yourself. I guess that's the best way that I
feeling
can.
your body,
Yeah,
loving
feeling
you
yourself.
where you are right now.
Yes.
So that a huge part of the program is loving your body and falling back in love with your body. And we have all body shapes. And I feel like a lot of people, if I say this, think, oh yeah, sure. I'm telling you, all the body shapes, when they get out of their head, these women, and into their body, I don't care what extra poundage you have, I don't care what disability you even have. It is beautiful to watch. It's super hot. Like, it's shocking. Women get unleashed and so fired up, so ignited with love for themselves. And they take that to their home and they take that to their husband. And it shifts everything. It really does. It's self-love.
And I mean, you think that just the positives of that. I mean, you take down, your stress levels, right? So, our adrenals are pushing. Our cortisol levels are super high. It gets us all off balance. But when we can come back and we're good and we're calm and we're comfortable and we know who we are, we're empowered, we're all of these beautiful adjectives. It's just a life changer for us.
Well, women want to feel sexy. And so we put on pretty sexy clothes. I mean, you get to dress like a cowgirl. You get to dress like a BDSM. I mean, really, the costumes that come in later on.
So people bring in costumes?
We do that later. At first, we're really very light because in order to be accessible for everybody, there's a lot of women that have a lot of sexual shame and trauma, and that's a huge component of this practice. We know that coming in, we don't know what we're going to be working with. So we start off very light and gentle, but as it progresses into level 2, it's Journey series, they're long 8-week series, we start introducing costumes because what we're trying to do is get you back in touch with what's called your erotic creature. So the most sexy feeling little woman inside who doesn't maybe get to come out to play a lot.
Yes, okay,
and,
okay.
this is a huge part of it. And so some ladies will show up like with pink ruffles and some will show up with black leather. And they have so much fun. And their dance actually shows how they're feeling, the sexual energy of that innocent or the sexual energy of that, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but the boss, or whatever it is they want to bring to the table, they get to play with. And everybody's welcome. There's nothing taboo. And we don't have nudity, but I'm saying every story is welcome. Every playground is welcome. And your sisters are there actually cheering for you as you dance. And you're telling your story, whatever it is that day, whatever music you choose. And we're clapping and cheering and saying, wow, you're so hot, go. And it's so much fun.
That sounds so fun. It sounds so fun. It sounds so transformative. I want to do it. I'm raising my hand.
Come on.
I definitely want to do it. But, I mean, when we think about what can we advise women who are at this point, this juncture in their lives where, they feel lost? They have transitioned from being, mom, like you have all these responsibilities, right? And then now that starts to change. You start to have these fluctuations in your hormones that, present themselves in ways that are, not as friendly, right?
It doesn't feel good.
It doesn't feel good. And, but what can we really impart upon these women who are going through that would give them maybe the
ammunition.
Just the the ammunition to say, I'm going to take this into my hand. I'm going to be empowered. I'm going to find out what I need to do to get myself to where I want to be, like to be personally responsible for how they're consuming this process.
I feel like if you have actual medical issues, I would say see a functional nutritionist or a functional doctor. They're less likely to prescribe something right away. They're more likely to look at root cause.
Right.
And look at your nutrition very carefully. Nutrition needs to be really hammered out at this point. High fruits and vegetables. There's so many things nutritionally you can do for menopause. And this is all self-love and self-care. So it comes down to you're gonna now take these changes and you're gonna become like even better. So nutrition, a great practitioner that listens to you and isn't just trying to prescribe something. Find an amazing exercise program you love: Zumba, exotic dance, swimming with friends, whatever. Just find something that you love.
Wow, this is so awesome. We are going to take a break and we will be back after the commercials.
The new 1059, 100.7 WSIC. News Talk Now.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Lights, camera,
News Talk Now.
And hello. We are back to the L Show with my guest, Dorothy Diana. Dorothy, we have had, I think, some juicy conversation so far.
Yeah.
And I want to continue down that path.
Sounds good.
Okay, we're going to talk about intimacy, right? So while we're going through these experiences of dry vagina, right? Like, how can intimacy look? Like intimacy beyond just penetration. Like, how does that look? How can it look for people who are experiencing this?
This is a great question. I love this topic. So we have women going through a lot of physical changes, and we know that the emotional component plays into that. So some of it might be actual physical, like we discussed before the break. You're going to your functional nutritionist and discussing, what is actually physical and what's actually my emotional or psychological reaction to changes happening and non-acceptance of my body and feeling insecure. There is, as you know, probably a weight gain factor with menopause. There's all kinds of things that happen.
Absolutely, right.
That changes that a woman can really be challenged in her self-esteem, and that comes to the bedroom. And so with this great communication we discussed earlier, hopefully with her partner, and being aware of her own mindset. So first of all, sexuality might change. What the practices in the bedroom might change. So we have this huge focus on vaginal penetrative sex in our culture as like the end-all be-all. But if you look at other cultures, they actually do very well with this. Like the Mexican culture, for example, some research has been done. And what they found is instead of like U.S. culture where the man feels he always has to have an erect penis, in the bedroom, in the Mexican culture, there's a known shift to more emotional connection with family after the age of 50. So as erectile dysfunction, which I don't get into that right now. We had this big commercial push for ED medications, but as erectile dysfunction increases a little bit, depending on the person, as you get older, as a male gets older, they know that the shift then goes to family and more connectedness and more cuddling, and it becomes a different experience. And I think we can do that in our sexuality here, like shift the experience to think about Tantra. That's a wonderful thing to start playing in. Think about all the delicious, wonderful, juicy lubricants that are out there now that are actually very healthy and natural. Why don't play with different flavors, play with different textures, buy a whole bunch of them, put them on the nightstand, have fun.
Yes.
Make it a playground. And what else can we do besides vaginal penetrative sex? I can think of a lot of things. I'm sure you can.
Right, exactly. Right, exactly. We're women, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because go to those arenas more and try things you haven't tried before.
Yeah, and I think it's great that like it really honors the masculine when we're trying to figure out ways that we can still be intimate, right? It honors our feminine and it honors their masculine, their needs, so we can make it what we want to make it.
Maybe you're not so hard tonight and I'm a little dry, so what else can we do? There's a lot of things, and I think we could write a little book and publish it. I don't know how much I can say on the air. Right. But yes, I agree with you, honoring each other where we are, and laughter and making it a little silly and making it creative and making it playful. Yeah.
Right. Wow. So making it playful. I love that. I love that. It doesn't have to be what mainstream touts it to be.
Absolutely.
It can be something very different, and you are still both very satisfied, and you still are having your needs met while you're going through these experiences, these
maybe
changes.
even better, honestly. When you start to have to get creative, who knows what's going to come up? I mean, there's a lot of very lubricating foods. I'm just going to say, right?
Yeah.
Like food play, get those rubber sheets or whatever. I don't know. And have some fun with that.
Yes.
I mean, so many ideas. I don't
Absolutely.
know. This could be a whole nother show.
Yes. And maybe it should be a whole nother show, right? Like, I think that, we have to normalize these things, ladies. Like, this is not something that should be taboo. These are things that are important to us. These are, when you think about the conversations that you have with your friends, right? When you're in these little small groups and you're talking about things that you go through, it naturally,
This is real, baby.
Yeah, this is real. This is keeping it real. It goes down this topic.
And I just thought of this with the, the weight gain that comes with menopause. There are so many beautiful costume shops also. So think about those costumes, the girdles, the corsets that are little S&M-y, they don't have to be, and they cinch you in at the waist and they uplift the breasts. What about, trying some of those on, like really just an outfit that looks really flattering. Buy yourself some costumes. Maybe buy some very tall heels that elongate the feminine frame. Buy yourself some candles. Get those lights really low. And if you feel amazing in your body, he's happy and he's turned on. And that's pretty much the equation in a healthy relationship.
Amazing. Amazing. I just, again, I love where you come from with this. I mean, this is not something that is shameful. It's not something that's shameful. It's something that we need. It's something that we want. We want acceptance. We want to be able to turn on the TV and see things that reflect the way that we feel, right? We want to be in the community.
Yeah,
And
well, that's not happening. Is
Yeah,
it?
well,
I would say next step, throw out your TV, right?
Yeah,
It's not reflecting reality at all.
right,
Making us
exactly,
all feel
exactly.
like doggy doo doo.
Yes. Therein lies this show. This is a place where we can come, we can be real, we can have these open conversations about things that aren't really normalized, but we're going to make them normal.
And not only normal, we're going to make them better than normal.
We're going to make them better than normal.
Menopause
Yes.
is going to be something people look forward to. I can't wait to try those
Exactly.
lubricating foods.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And our next show, we're gonna really delve into, because what we didn't talk about on this show was pharmacotherapeutic treatment. We didn't talk about that because that really is not where we want to begin, right? So we talk about functional medicine, we talk about root causes. We want to first talk about where are we, what can we do to make us the best version of ourselves, to give ourselves all the tools that we need to help our bodies to function the most efficient way, the most healthy way, so that we can deal with these insults, right? That we'll call them, the fluctuation of hormones. How do we deal with those, right? So we want to start there, by these practices, by exercises that you love, these mental, mindful practices, meditation.
Excellent.
You and I had a quick conversation about meditation and mindfulness the other day, and it was just the breath and how important breathing is, and how breathing allows you to really feel and hear and experience, and you become more self-aware. You become in tune. So all of these things we want to try before we need to pop a pill, before
That's
we
right.
need to do some of these other.
And if you have amazing self-confidence and you've already sort of treated yourself with self-love and creativity and great communication, increased intimacy and empowerment, when you walk into your practitioner's office, instead of having this, okay, whatever this person says, I'm just going to do it because I'm desperate and anxious, you're much more likely to have a mentor relationship with your practitioner where, because they don't have your body, right? They might have a degree,
Yes.
but they're not perfect, and they're influenced by, pharmaceutical companies and their own education and their own biases. And so you want to walk into that office really feeling confident, knowing your body, advocating for yourself. And that, again, starts with self-love and self-care. Otherwise, you're just sort of following whatever they say, and it may not be right for you. There's a lot of treatment options, like you said, and not a one-size-fits-all, right?
Uniqueness in our approach to everyone. Everyone experiences, these things differently. We know that things happen, but to the degrees, it's different, right? So my experience with, vaginal dryness may be very different from somebody else's experience with vaginal dryness, but it doesn't make it less important, and it doesn't make it as something that we really want to take care of in a way that really honors who we are first, that we're heard, that, listen, I want to try something else. I don't want you to give me X. I'd like to try going down this route, and you do want to have that relationship with your practitioner.
Yeah, here's my options.
Yeah, like and like you said, and I totally agree. The relationship that you have with your practitioner is so important. And when you can come and you can verbalize, this is the way that I feel. This is what's going on. This is real. This is not something that I made up.
Which is so sad that we have to even say that. And that's so true that there's been a long history of, this attitude that women are hyperactive, hypervigilant with their menopause.
Or histrionic.
Histrionic. The root word is uterus, right?
Yes, right.
About their symptoms. And thankfully, I think we're mostly past that now. But that's still real. So yeah, you have to be able to advocate for yourself. And if they say to you, it sounds like you're just imagining it, find someone else.
You got to.
Done. Next.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I tell you, it is one thing to go through the journey and not have any support, and not have anyone to talk to. We all know, as women, we need support. We need
really
our sisters. We need people who are going to validate us, who are going to say it's okay. And again, coming back to the show, that is what we are here to do. We're here to validate each other. It's okay. We can talk about these things, and it is not something that's going to be taboo.
And we
anymore.
are going to talk about them. We should talk about them
should.
a lot louder and a lot more often. And with so much fun, and maybe a martini or a tea.
Yes,
But,
yes.
yeah, the sisterhood concept I think is very important, actually, that you touched on that. I think that's underemphasized, the need we have of our sisters in this life, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. You know, a lot of us feel very isolated. We're isolated, and I think it's very important to find your group. Find your group, whether it's a gym class, yoga class, church. Find the people, your tribe you can talk to about things honestly and openly that hear you and support you. Huge.
Oh, this has been an absolutely amazing time. I cannot tell you how happy I am to have you on the show.
So delighted.
We're going to do this again. And thank you to all of our listeners today for spending time with us on the L Show, where you will be heard and your issues will be dealt with.
Yes.
Thank you. Take care.
The new 1059 100.7